Okay, this is the fourth video, and so where we left off is right here. This is pretty much what this looks like, and it's not beautiful, but it's a good start. Now, one of the things that we didn't actually do last time is we didn't actually turn these things into links. What we're going to do, if you look back at our demonstration page, it's all on the same page, okay? It's not like I'm clicking to go to different pages. If I click on this, it jumps to a place that's further down in the page, okay? And you can actually see it moving because we have JavaScript applied to it. Well, right now, these things are not links. They don't go anywhere. They don't do anything, like they're not clickable. So what we need to do is we need to apply links to those real quick. So over here, I can either do this in the display view, like this. I can highlight it here. And down in properties, there's a thing that says link, a little entry thing. And what we're going to do is we're going to have to be able to jump somewhere down the page. But where do we jump? Well, if you see here, this is where we would want to jump for the first article. But the problem with that, just so you realize it, is that we have to have what's called an ID, like this kind of, okay? Well, not kind of, just like this. We have to have an ID applied to each one of these articles. Okay, so that's what we need to do before we actually create the links. So the first thing we want to do is if I highlight this article right there, I'm not going to do it in the display view because watch what happens. If I highlight this in the display view, see what it actually highlights in the code view? It only highlights the text, and that's not what I want. I want it to actually go to the actual article. Okay, and why does this matter? This might matter because of the way we're going to style it later. So this is why it's so important to not just rely on the display view. Dreamweaver's display view is helpful for convenience, but it is not something to depend on. So anyway, I'm going to highlight it over here in the code view, and then I'm going to say down here where it says ID, I'm going to type in link 1. It cannot have any spaces, and it cannot start with a number. You could have an underscore in it. You can't have special characters like a dollar symbol or an @ symbol or anything like that. So I'm just going to call mine link 1. I hit return, and you see it automatically puts it in there for me. All right, I'm going to do the same thing. Now, I could just do the same thing like this. I could sit here and I could type, link 2. Oops, sorry, link 2, like that. I could do that for each one. Or I could just copy this, including the space right here. I could copy that. And then for the other articles, I can just add it and then change it to link 3. So it's really up to you how you want to do it. If you're not comfortable, typing very much in the code, then that would be one way to deal with it. And then, see, now it says refresh because I made some code changes without using it's referred to as the WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get. So I'm going to hit refresh. Okay, so now I've got some links on there. Or I should say I've got some IDs on there so that I can make links. Alright, so if I go up to the top now I have something on these clickable buttons. I now have something to apply a link to. Okay, so I can either highlight it here in the code view, or I can highlight it over here in the display view. And what's important now, earlier I told you couldn't highlight this, right? Because it didn't highlight what I wanted it to. But over here, if I highlight just the word, that's actually what I want to highlight. I don't want to highlight the whole list item. I just want to highlight link 1. Okay? So either way. But just to be safe, code view's more reliable. So if I go down here where it says link, I can type in pound or hashtag, and then I can type link 1. And the reason I'm going to do that is because this text, if I hit return, you see what it does is it adds an href, and that is a clickable link, by the way. Stands for anchor, href stands for hyperreference, and then the value of the hyperreference is where is it going to go. It's the address of where it's going to take us. If you're clicking to go to someplace on the same page, then all you do is you put a pound symbol to indicate that it's supposed to jump to an ID who has the same name, right? So it has this same name as this, okay? And so that's what we're going to do for each one of these. So I'm going to highlight link 2, and I'm going to type pound link 2. Don't forget to type the pound whenever you're making that link, that anchor reference, okay? Otherwise it won't work. Link 3, and then finally here's link, oops, like I almost did. Okay, link 4. Okay, so now at least we have our links on there, and you see over here they automatically turn blue and they become underlined, which is the default characteristic of an A tag. Okay? Alright, so let's go ahead and save that. And you're going to notice if we go to test it, it's not going to seem like it's really doing anything. If I click on link 4, see, what it does up here is it adds the pound symbol with link 4 at the end of the URL to indicate that it's at the same page but at a different place on the page. But it didn't go anywhere because my browser window is open, right? It's open like large enough that it doesn't have to jump anywhere. So that's kind of like, you know, a little bit of a letdown. Here, let's try it one more time, and let's say that I close my browser window up a lot and I jump to link 4. See, it jumps so that link 4 is now visible on the page. Well, what we want to happen is we want to make these sections large enough, or I shouldn't say section, these articles large enough so that no matter what, it'll still feel like it's jumping, like it's, you know, because when we go to apply the easing effect later, there needs to be plenty of space. Well, one of the things, if you wanted to be certain, and this isn't necessarily always the best principle, okay, but if you're trying to isolate it so that only this content is showing up on the page, then what you do is you take a best estimate of what the largest height, or the highest height of any, you know, large screen is going to be, and then we're going to style it so that it takes up that height. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight where it says article ID link 1. Okay, and actually what I'm going to do is just highlight article, and it's probably going to still choose link 1, but I want to make a new style in my style sheet. So over here where it says style CSS, I'm going to click where it's got a little page icon with a plus and it says new CSS rule. I click on that, and you see automatically it's making an assumption that I want to style the ID of link 1. That's not what I want to do. So if I go where it says tag, I want to make sure that all articles are a certain height. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit OK, and then where it says box, okay, click on box on the left, and then for height, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to be about 2,000 pixels tall, because most monitors are not that tall. Okay, and like I said before, this is not necessarily a best practice or anything like that. It's just for this demonstration. You can do this a lot of different ways. Okay, all right. So one of the first things I'm going to do is just go ahead and say OK. All right, and what that's going to do, just so you know, if you look at my style sheet, which is connected right here, is it created a style called for article, which means that any article in this document is going to have a height of 2,000 pixels. Now, the only problem with having a height of 2,000 pixels is in the event that you're going to have more content than 2,000 pixels worth, then probably what you want to do is you want to have min-height. So it's a minimum height of 2,000 pixels. Okay, and off to the right, you'll notice that it looks like all those other headings disappeared, but if I scroll, you see that they're there. Okay, so now let's do a test real quick. I'm going to save the style sheet. You don't have to if you just want to do a test. And I'm going to go to where we're looking at it in Google Chrome. And if I click on link 3, see, it jumps to link 3, but my navigation disappears, right? In this one, it stays put. Okay, no matter what I click, it stays up here. That's a styling thing. So, and I have no way to get back up except for to take my scroll bar and move it. So that's not good, but one step at a time, right? So first of all, before we do anything else, let's go ahead and focus on getting this list so that it stays persistent up at the top. Okay? Alright, so let's come back over here and let's look at what we need to highlight here. So we're looking at this section where it says main nav. Well, one of the things that I need you to understand too is that the body, this isn't something you're going to know until you know it, the body automatically puts a little bit of a margin all the way around the page. So there are a couple of things that you're not going to know until I tell you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight this body tag, and while I'm over here in styles, I'm going to go ahead and create a new ID for it, and I'm going to have to tell it to be a tag type for the body, say OK. And then might as well, while I'm at it, also go ahead and set the type of font that I want. So let's just say it's Arial Helvetica. And the other thing too is that I could set the color for the text on the page. So instead of black, let's maybe make it a charcoal color like 333. And the other thing too, now if I go over, I can hit apply by the way, and you see it changed, it updated. Now if I go down here to where it says box, I need to set the margin and leave same for all selected to 0 on the body. And so we're going to hit apply, and you see everything sort of cinched right up to the left and top edges. Okay, so that's the first thing about the body. Now, there's something else about these other things like a UL and list items, and all these they're referred to as block level elements if they take up the entire width of the screen. They automatically will have some styling applied to them by the browser's style sheet. It's not something that you make, it's something that a browser applies to things like paragraphs and headings, because if you don't already have styles written, it's going to apply something so that it can visually organize, at least at a minimal level, what your page is going to look like. So sometimes you have to counteract that, and that's what that body margin was doing. Okay, it's something that you're having to sort of fight the browser with, okay, basically. So you'll see that again in just a minute. Alright, anyway, so now we want to get these links so that they are side by side. Well, the first thing is that I want to get the bullets off of here, and the other thing too is you'll see that these have a padding, they're sort of like pushed in. Well, that is something that is applied to a UL tag by the browser. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go to make a new CSS rule, and I'm not gonna apply it to like every UL in the entire page. I'm just going to apply it to the ones that are inside the main nav ID. So what this is saying, you see it tells you here that this is basically going to affect any instance of an unordered list inside of the main nav tag. Well, you see here, this in fact, let me go ahead and click OK. You see this on the left is a UL that is inside of something that has the main nav ID applied to it. Okay, so what I want to do for this is go down to where it says list, and I want to say list style type is none. Apply it. You see the bullets go away. And the other thing I want to do is I want to go to box, and I want to tell it to have a 0 padding like this, and apply it, and you see it automatically aligns itself like right up on the left edge. Okay, so those are the first two things you have to sort of counteract. Alright, and now to get these things, these list items, to sort of float next to each other, what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight a list item, click a new link thing, and then again I'm going to let it, not a new link but a new style, I'm going to let it stay just like this. Hopefully yours selected it this way, where it's every li inside of an unordered list that is inside of the main nav ID. So I'm going to say OK to that, and I'm going to go ahead now, and where it says box, I'm going to tell it to float left. Okay, and then it does this crazy thing where they're all popped right up next to each other. Okay, well, one of the things that I can do is let's say that if we were to make it like the other one, well, let's say we only have 4 links, what we can also do is we can tell them to be 25% width, so that if we have 4 of them, that would take 25 times 4 is 100%. If I hit apply, then they spread out. That's one option. You could also add padding and margins and stuff like that. Now, if I leave it this way, you see that they're staying left aligned. If you want them centered, if you want the words centered, you see if I highlighted it, highlights the entire amount of space that list item is taking up. Well, the text inside of it, if we go up to where it says block, we can say text align center. Okay, and then it aligns them center. You might not want it that way, but that's an option. This is how I'm going to do it in the demo. Okay, so I hit OK.